Not entirely sure where the end of this bolt is, but I think we'll find it so that we can just cut it off in order to be able to get this out of the way. There's one over here too somewhere. Hey, look, I found both of them. Although I think what we'll do is just slice this here for now till we're underneath and we can get to those and just slice them off with the cutter. But yeah, see, there's plenty of solid metal still underneath there. And all you southern guys were so worried. See, there's all kinds of metal right there. You know, I got warned 3 separate times by 3 separate people not to touch that with my hands or else it would dye my fingers black. And I still forgot and grabbed it without gloves. We had some questions as to why I did this with the reciprocating saw in the last video. That is fire retardant. This will not burn. And every time I hit it with the plasma cutter, it ended up causing backwash and all kinds of other things to happen. So I just ended up saying screw it and just did the whole thing with the reciprocating saw. There's another really major bit of it right here. And I've also got to figure out how to get that ground out of there for when we try to overlap the roof and everything. Because my goal is to grind it out as far as we're going to overlap. That way I can weld down inside of this seam and then be able to refill it with epoxy or something. But today's agenda is a whole lot of air hammer and needle scale work. It's not going to be fun, just plain going to be loud, obnoxious, and suck. But we have about a 2-week window of it being warm enough to be able to paint and seal this frame and to be able to try and get the cab sealed back up. Once it drops below 50 degrees, we're SOL on this project. So we've got about 2 weeks. That's it. Okay, that'll pull. There's that. Bring it down in here and turn it sideways. Voila! 4 more to go. That one, no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get the tank out in order to drop it the rest of the way. You might have been able to assemble it in underneath, you know, with the quirky fingers and holding it and getting the nut on there and all of that. But there's a cross member in the way this way, so you can't go that way with the bushing and come out through here. And there's a wiring harness, 2 hoses, a vent, and a cross member in the way on that side with not enough room anywhere to get that out. Well, I'd say amazingly, some more chicken wire later. That muffler's actually in really good condition. So we should be able to reuse that. So we got to get it hung up where it's supposed to be later on. For now, we're just going to leave it on the chicken wire so we can drop it all out and be able to spray paint. And then down in here, we've got to get those joined back up somehow, but that really shouldn't take too much effort. Cool. Well, at this point, I need to wire bristle brush that on a drill, and that one as much as I can, PB blaster them, and then pray to whatever deity that they hopefully come loose. Finally found the drill. Do not buy these. This thing utterly, totally sucks. I am actually really glad the company didn't sponsor me getting these. This chuck comes loose on its own, no matter how much you tighten it. You can tighten it with a wrench, you can tighten it with anything. The chuck will just plain decide randomly to come loose on everything. I hate this thing. On a more positive note, this is our experiment with our diesel heater from Vevor. And we'll be doing a talking video about this. But this has been really cool. It's nice to go and be able to take the bedroom and make it a designated like 70 plus degrees location. So that is the battery that was in my old plow truck that we got rid of this summer. A couple of trickle charger solar panels. We've got a 25 watt solar panel with charge controller showing up. And we've got a tank there. And it's, so far, it's averaging about 16 hours of runtime on 2.5 gallons of diesel. Just to keep an idea. Okay, now, let's get back to this purgatory. Everybody has an opinion on this. Here's mine. Take it as 2 cents worth of the fact that I have one of the #1 rust repair on frame videos on the entire interwebs for the last 6 years. What I do is I take an air hammer with the point and I go through every single line that I can find on the frame. As far as I am concerned, you should think of it like either tattooing or drawing out something for somebody to color in. Every line that you can hit precisely with that, and then go through all your large areas with your needle scaler. That's the way I do it. I have just actually had a friend traded for a plow truck who traded to another friend the same 6 years off the road plow truck, who ended up getting underneath it and decided he's going to try and put it back on the road because the frame paint job that I did 6 years ago is still on that truck. So take it however you want to. That's the way I do them. You know, a air hammer and a camera at the same time sucks. But you get the idea. See, this is another spot here where the air hammer will make a big difference. So you do that center line, you can see I scoured it really good, and that'll break that center, and then you can push down in from either side. See? But if you don't break that center line, which feels as if you're not doing anything, the rest of it will fight you. But once that center line's gone, The rest of it will come right out. There, we swapped over to the needler because softer stuff like this is what the needler is great for. So, we've ordered up a gas tank strap for both ends. That was like 26 bucks. We're going to drop that whole tank out. We're going to refinish it, double check it doesn't have any leaks. Because yet again, at one point we smelled gas while we were cutting this apart. I'm going to hope it's just these rotted out. By the way, if you need those, they're like 45 bucks, the cheapest place I could find. That's insane. The entire tank is like $280, and the sending unit's like another $75. So we're going to be careful dropping this out, treat it like gold, and hopefully revive it. The term scary yet satisfying seems to come to mind right here. And no, I'm not talking about that girl from college you don't tell your parents about. Scary, yet satisfying. Alright, want to play a fun round of why Fords rot out? This is a Ford design that's been around for years. And we wonder why the frame rots out in a Ford. Had to find some more concentrated firepower here. Yeah. Another one of those when to use that versus when to use this. If you have this kind of like crusty type rust, that is when the needle scaler goes in and gets it right off of there. This is great to do with the needle scaler. If you can get in with a wire bristle on the end of a grinder, that's also another really quick option for this type of rust. Well, we're at the end of day one, about 5 hours in. We'll get that air compressor turned off and let it cool down. Yes, that is exactly what you think it is. It even has the drain to let the water out from when it was originally built. It is a hot water tank built into a 220 air compressor. And yes, it is using copper line on the pressure side of the pump. Feel free to comment down below exactly how much I'm going to blow up. All of that extra shielding stuff is out. The sun is going down. And at this point, most of the top is cleaned off. This needs to be wire brushed over the top of, but that makes a huge dust cloud. I'm going to start fresh on that later. So we got until that point done on this side. And we got most of the rear done. It actually turned out to not be as bad as I was expecting it to be. So I think I'm going to try and salvage the tire holder. Obviously, the spare tire and the assembly is out and it's going to stay out. But I'm going to see if I can clean this up because it's actually not in as bad condition as I thought it was going to be. And now we need to come down through and do this side tomorrow. And I've already ordered up the rust converter spray. What I use is marine grade TotalBoat rust converter. and this whole thing's going to get sprayed down with it. We're going to let it have 24 hours to soak in before we paint it with some Rust-Oleum. Let's talk about this center seat, because it's apparently been very concerning to a bunch of people that have commented about it. So, why is it where it is? As you can see, it's back a little bit. Part of that is because of the doghouse that's right here. The other part is if you come back here, I have drawn in a line down through right here. And the reason being is I really can't get a camera shot on it, but there is a big giant cab cross member that goes right through here. All of these are mounted just in from that cross member. So if I mark a line across the back side of those, I know that anything on that side of the line will get me on the other side of the cross member the same as the regular seats. The other reason I did this was because there are sensors that run down this side of the exhaust, and there are transmission sensors that run down this side. I wanted to make sure that I was straddling the transmission by enough that I wasn't going to drill straight through the top of the control sensors on that side. At this point, we should be good. I've got a friend coming over who's going to help me with gutting out all of the seats. So we need to get this mocked up and drilled out now before we rip out the rest of the seating. Well, on positive news, I hit something solid. Not entirely sure what that gunk is that came out of that hole that basically hit nothing and hit something solid. 3 out of 4. I mean, that's 75%. That's a passing grade, right? In all honesty, I'm expecting to find some big giant rust hole right there because there's some sort of gobbledygook in underneath there. I'm betting some sort of weird ghetto patch job is going to be there. We'll find out. There we are. Gas tank is disconnected. And as you can see, I don't have any special tool for dealing with these. Here's the old trick that I saw somebody do in a shop years ago, and I've just continued to do the same thing. What you do is you take a pair of pliers and you hold it back in here and you pull down and to the side with it. And then you take a sideways pick like this. And as you pull back, there's 4 little clips on the inside. See if you can see them. And inevitably, there's really actually only one clip that tends to be what's really holding everything. Usually there'll be 2 that are just kind of there, and then there'll be 1 that doesn't even really matter. So if you can get the one that's really actually holding stuff bent back, and then you slowly work back and forth and then do the top one. So you start with a bottom, do 2 sides, and then do the top, and then back and forth, up and down. It takes a few minutes, but it'll come out of there. Well, I'd say we're blatantly at the all or nothing point when it comes to getting this thing off of here. We'll fold that up, and we'll cut the harder to get to one first. And, well, I forgot a hammer, so I guess we're going to use our Walmart air hammer. Yeah, that'll work. That's no joke, by the way. You know, for people saying it takes money to do stuff and things like that, this is literally a Walmart air hammer that I have had for 12 years. And it's probably on its 9th or 10th truck frame. And In all honesty, the very first truck frame that I ever did, I did it with a hammer and like 6 different styles of chisels and whatever happened to get me into every nook and cranny. So don't ever say that money is the reason you're not doing it. Not entirely sure what's holding it right now. Oh, the answer is nothing, apparently. Alright. Now we'll get that out of there. There we go. We got that out and to the side so we can take it over to the garage to work on. I am not a fan of the aluminum foil method. I'm using it right now because I am out of sandwich bags, which is what I usually use, is just cheap dollar store sandwich bags, put a zip tie at the bottom, call it good. The reason I don't like aluminum foil is any good rust converter type primer product, whatever, is going to have acid in it. Aluminum foil and acid do not combine very well. I've also got aluminum foil down here because this is where the e-brake is. I don't ever expect to use it, don't ever want to have to use it, but if I ever do, I don't want it covered in paint and corrosive and going to lock up and stay there and leave me stranded. I want it to move, which is why there's aluminum foil on both the outs. Now we're going to work on getting the chicken wire muffler system out of there if we can. That way we can get to all of the frame rail and hopefully UPS will show up with my gallon of TotalBoat in order to put on here today. Having friends is a good thing. We've got the ghost of YouTube here and he has his induction heater. We're going to heat up these. And of course, in usual Ford fashion, it is a 18 deep that you need. Oh, by the way, while we're waiting for that thing, anybody recognize this B logo? Now, I had a grandfather that was in the Air Force, and a lot of people hypothesize it might be Boeing, but does anybody know? Well, the seats are out. And now we get to find out the horrifying and scary truth about what the floor underneath here is going to look like. Now, I'm already pretty certain that we've got at least one hole in the floor. Because we managed to go and have the drill bit just punch right straight through earlier. We gotta be careful with our plugs here. And we've got a hold down right there, and there's another hold down randomly underneath here somewhere. So we're just gonna slice that right off, because eventually this is going to come off of here so that I can do a rust sealant underneath all of it. Alright, I'm going to put my knife away. That way I'm cursed and we end up with one more thing we have to cut. But at this point, plus or minus the shattered glass, should be able to get it out of here. Here we go. Let's go take a first-hand look at this floor. Yeah. That's good. Oh yeah, perfect. That's moderately solid there. Right there is where the front of the chair was bolted down. That's good and solid there. That's solid. That's solid. It's a little bit questionable. That one's not bad. Not bad. Well, I think what we're going to do at this point is this is the right job for the needle scaler. So we're going to vacuum this out and hit it with the needle scaler. Figure out exactly how extreme the damage is. Then go from there. At first glance, for somebody who does not normally deal with rust like this in a vehicle, this looks horrible. This looks bad. But actually, in the case of rust in vehicles in a cab or something like this was caught at exactly the right time. What I mean by that is all of the cab substructure is still intact. Yes, it is going to absolutely suck to remake this really curved, stupid panel, but not a single bit of that edge, that compound, curvy, whatever factory edge, is rotted out enough it has to be replaced. All of it should be able to be rust saved and not have to be redone. The other thing is they double or triple layered all of the metal going to that edge, which means it won't take very much to template a piece of cardboard and weld right along that seam in order to replace everything. The only actual seat mount that is corroded out is this one. Yet again, these are really simple to deal with. All you do is make your cardboard template, and then you mark where that is. You cut a circle on the outside edge of this, and then you just put down your floor pan and weld the outer circle. Now, make sure you fill that with something so that splatter doesn't get down in it and ruin it, but it's really not that hard. Back here, right along here, is where the beam under the cab runs, and all of that is structurally sound. There's nothing wrong with it at all, which means that from this seam right here forward gives me a nice straight line that I can just fabricate from. I'm actually really happy with the current condition of this. It is not as bad as I was expecting. It's actually in better condition than I was expecting. This right here was the real deciding factor. Once I got into this and I found out that this cab mount was actually fully intact, this became a doable project in a matter of a couple of days instead of a couple of weeks. The other thing is, we do have some pretty significant rot down here in this lower tray. And what I probably will do is just drop in a piece of angle iron down here and weld it right up and just call it good. This is not a pretty section. It does not have to be anything anybody can see, but it does have to be there structurally to hold everything from here to there. So a piece of bed rail or any kind of angle iron thrown in there is better than nothing. Otherwise than that, UPS has not shown up with my order of TotalBoat. So hopefully the next clip is me happily pulling that out of a package. This video ending brought to you by UPS. Why deliver when you can destroy it instead?